Hey there, and welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while since I've uploaded a video, but with work and personal obligations, just haven't found the time to create and upload any videos. But that doesn't mean that we haven't been capturing footage. I actually went on an elk hunt with my buddy Adam and Justin at I guess it was the end of August and the first part of September. We weren't successful in getting out, but we had a great time, had a really great hike, great views, really enjoyed the scenery. And of course, the October season here in Texas is underway. For deer, I've had a chance to get out just behind the house a couple of times. Haven't been successful there yet, but it's also been hot. We've got a cold front coming up this week, so really looking forward to maybe getting out a day or two this week, and of course it's a long season. But for this video, what I want to do is backtrack to our September elk hunt, and I want to go through real quickly the pack and the gear that I took with me. Just do a real quick loadout video. I'm not going to go into detail on why I used the equipment that I used and that kind of thing, but I do want to show just kind of a pack loadout, show you what I carried with me, and then I'll do subsequent videos kind of going into more detail about the changes that I made from last year. Of course, I've got videos that I posted last year on the preparation phase of it, but I want to kind of talk about some of the same gear that I took and also some of the changes that I've made this season and things that I may change for next year. Anyway, so let's get into it real quickly. I'm going to start out with the gear that I had on me or wore. We'll start with the boots. I think boots are one of the most critical items for an elk hunt, and these are the same ones that I purchased last year. They're the Salomon GTX 4D3. I get confused on those numbers, but Salomon GTX. Really love these boots. I've got probably a couple of 100 miles in the mountains on these. Had no problems with hot spots or blisters or anything like that. The best thing you can say about a pair of boots is I just kind of forgot about them, didn't think about them much, and that's a good thing. So again, worked out well. Kind of going in with that, I'll talk about socks. Wore darn tough socks. I took 2 pair of darn tough socks and sock liners. I actually don't think I ever wore the sock liners and the socks. I just mostly wore the socks. I had 2 pair of darn tough socks. That's one of them. Of course, I've got my cap and sunglasses. I don't have a good TBH TexasBowhunter.com camo cap. It's been a while since we've had one of those, so that's something that I want to get before next season. Actually, probably before the end of this deer season here in Texas. Need to kind of work on getting a good cap. So I just wore this green Kifaru cap that I had picked up when I was at the Kifaru shop last year. Costa sunglasses, so just typical kind of stuff. Underwear, just a good pair of merino wool. These are Wool X boxers. I did take 1 extra pair of underwear, and I think those are Ex Officio boxers. And then I've got a First Light merino long sleeve shirt that I wore just about every day. And then these are the corrugate guide pants, again a First Light. I really like those. Other things that I had on me are my typical kind of daily carry type stuff. I did take a Write in the Rain notebook. This is something that Adam had last year, a little notepad to make notes in, and I really found that to be very helpful just to take some notes, gear changes that I might make for next year, notes of areas that I might want to scout or look at, or just reminders to myself that I can refer back to. Flashlight, just a little pocket flashlight that I carry on me every day anyway. Little pocket knife. I've got a chapstick that I carry, and then I did carry this. This is an OC spray. I'm not worried at all about bears or anything like that. I didn't take a weapon, didn't take bear spray last year, didn't take it this year, but I carry an OC spray every day. My daughter made me promise that I would carry at least an OC spray, so I did carry that as well. And then the bow, we'll go real quickly into that. The bow, of course, is my Matthews Traverse that I picked up before this season. I did a review on that. You can check it out right here. Really like this bow. I got it really dialed in to about 60 or 70 yards. It was tuned, shooting perfectly with the arrows. These are the Easton carbon injection arrows that my buddy Jeff over at Cinnamon Creek Ranch built for me before this season. He sent me a dozen of those. Thanks, Jeff, for that. And then I've got, I took 2 different broadheads. My go-to broadhead is the Wasp Jackhammer 125 grain. I've shot those for years, and I have the most confidence in those. So I took 3 of those, and then I took a couple of the Iron Will broadheads that I purchased last year. They're a fixed blade broadhead. Really like the way they shoot. I had them both flying pretty well, so which one I opted for would have depended on as much on conditions and distance and that kind of thing, and just kind of feel which one I grabbed if the opportunity would have presented itself. Unfortunately, it didn't. and so I didn't get a chance to test either one of those out. And then of course, this is my Just Because Carter Just Because release. I kept it in this bow slicker sling, and I used the bow slicker when I was actually hiking into our spot, and then when I was hiking back out. Typically on a day-to-day deal, I didn't carry it, and it almost cost me, and I'll go through that here in just a moment. One thing I forgot to mention is carried my phone, just an iPhone, with me, and used that in conjunction with both my Garmin InReach, which we have right here. I'll go ahead and mention that while I'm here, and then also the Onyx map system. We got a new affiliation with Onyx, and so that was actually worked out while I was on the mountain. The other thing that I carried with me is a trekking pole. I've actually got 2 trekking poles. You can see the other one is right there on the pack. This is the primary trekking pole that I used. I really like having just a single trekking pole when I'm going uphill, downhill, especially with heavy loads. This is a Mountain Smith trekking pole, Trekker FX. What I really liked it, and the reason that I bought that, is it's got this padded top on it, so I can use it with my tarp system if I want to set it up and use these as my poles for the tarp. So it's kind of multifunction, and then I can screw this cap off, and it exposes a 1/4-20 mount that I can use for a camera mount. I've also got, and we talked about it before, is a Dinkum action pod, and I really like this. Clamp it to a tree. I've talked about this in detail before. Use it for any of the camera setups that I have. Most of the time it actually stayed on that other one, but I just wanted to show how I could clamp it on here and make use of it as well. On this, I've got, probably can't see it here, but I've got some Gorilla Tape and some Leuco tape, extra Leuco tape. All right, so the other thing that I had on me, and we'll talk real quickly about that, is my optics system. I have a Outdoor Visions binocular harness here. I really like this, the way it folds out away from the body, easy access to the binoculars. So I really like that. The binoculars are Vortex Furies. I probably had these since 2007. They are starting to kind of fall apart. The plastic's coming off of them, but they still work really well. I will probably send these in to Vortex between now and next season, or at the end of the deer season here. And I think they've got a lifetime warranty, so see if I can either get them repaired or possibly replaced. I've got just a little wipes for either camera lens or for the binoculars, of course, just a cleaning cloth, and then I've got my wind checker. So just wind checker's nice to have. It fits in that side pocket, always easily accessible, and you can see around it. I've also got some additional Leuco tape. The other pocket, most of the time I ran this Osmo Pocket. I really like this thing, this Osmo Pocket camera. It's a stabilized gimbal, and I ran this. This is a very versatile piece of equipment as well. So I could run it and just kind of hand hold it. Of course, it's got the gimbal on it. I could also mount it to either the Dinkum Action Pod or mount it to the trekking pole, which I did quite a bit. And then I've got it. I can, while I'm walking, while I'm hiking, I can turn it on real quick and just get quick footage, get quick pictures, anything that I want. So I really like the versatility of that. One other thing I want to show is kind of going back to the versatility of it. I've got this mount that screws into my stabilizer mount. The stabilizer actually screws into it, and then this screws into the side. There's 4 different spots for it. Zenmuse sent me this. Jake over at Zenmuse sent this to me, and what I can do is I can actually mount a camera, either an action camera, or in this case the Pocket, right there. It gives me quick, easy access to it. I can shoot out to the front, video out to the front. I can also video back to me, and with this Osmo Pocket I can just hit the button 3 times and it switches either forward facing or rear facing. Inside the front pocket I've got like a lens pen kind of thing, and then as I mentioned before with my release, I didn't carry the bow slicker with me, but I usually keep the release in the pouch for the bow slicker, and so it's always with the bow unless I don't carry the bow slicker with the bow, and which I found myself on one of the hunts, I didn't carry it out there, and so I didn't have my release with me. But that's exactly why I always carry a spare release on my binocular harness, just like this. So I had a release. Didn't need it, but did have it in the event that I would have. I've got my tag in there. I normally keep an extra battery or two. I've got my elk diaphragm coils. I kept, this is actually a D-loop material and serving string in case I needed to do a little bit of minor repair on the bow. Tim over at Rush to Bay just hooked me up with a few pieces of that, and so I just put it in this little Ziploc and carry it in there. I got a little compass as well. I carried my driver's license and a little bit of cash in there as well. Then I've got my rangefinder. I've had this rangefinder for many years. It's a Leica 1600B, I believe is what it is. Yep. And so it's one of the first angle compensating rangefinders. Works well enough. I know that they've increased the technology on that for the most part for recently. So that takes me to the pack itself. And so this is, of course, the Kifaru Cavern pack that I picked up last year. I really like just about everything about it. It's a duplex light frame. They have an ultralight, but this is the light version of the frame, and it just carries really comfortably, unless there's a stick in it. But anyway, it just carries really comfortably. I've hiked a lot of stadium steps. I've hiked a lot of time in the mountain with it, and it carries heavy loads about as comfortably as you can expect it to carry heavy loads. Real quickly on the outside, this is the belt strap that's for it. I've got one medium pouch. This is actually the, I forget what they call it, but the waterproof material that they have for the pouch. Let me just pull this up over here and look at it. All right, so this pouch typically sits on one hip, and just stuff that I need to access really quickly. I've got my headlamp in there. I've got the Osmo Action or GoPro, so just my action camera that stayed in there, maybe a couple of extra batteries, and then I've got my Sony RX100. This is the Mark VI. I did a review on it as well. This is the second year I've used it. Really like it. They made some improvements on the Mark VII that I wish they would have had on this, but that's neither here nor there. And then I also carried, just little snacky type foods that I might need while I'm packing. On the other side, I've got the Kifaru Nalgene. I don't know if you say Nalgene. I've never figured that out. But anyway, I'll call it Nalgene. I've got my Nalgene bottle in here, and then the cap. That's primarily the water that I would use while I was hiking, easily accessible on my hip. And then in this pouch, another medium pouch, kind of on the side, I've got like gloves, mask, beanie, head net, that kind of thing, glove liners. So just things that I might need on and off throughout the day real quickly. So that kind of stayed in there. And then this top pouch that I kind of ran as a lid, and we'll look at a couple of different things, but this one stays kind of on the top, and this kind of has some electronic type stuff in it. Also my first aid kit. This is just a very basic, we'll call it a boo-boo kit. It's got some just band-aids and pain medications and antacids, and I talked a little bit about some of the things that are in here on my kayaking video. Exact same thing. May add to that next year. I've heard some horror stories about people getting cut with broadheads and doing some bleeding, so maybe some bleeding type control. I'd probably add like a SWAT T tourniquet. It's a tourniquet that kind of doubles as a compression wrap, and so I think that would be a valuable thing to have. Maybe a little bit more gauze. Again, I've got some extra batteries for the camera in here. I've got a Sharpie marker with some duct tape around it, and that's pretty much it in there. All right, so looking at the outside, I'm going to take these off real quick and just mention those. These are just for around the camp, Crocs, straps, with straps, in case I needed to do a water crossing or something like that. But these are invaluable to have at camp. Get your boots off, rest your feet when you're back at camp. Great thing to have. Let's flip around to the other side. There's a, we'll go ahead and take, I already mentioned the other hiking trekking pole that's in there. And then in this side pocket, this actually has a side pocket on it. We'll unzip that, if I can find the zipper for it, and just unload it real quickly. Gaiters, these are the Kuiu gaiters. I picked these up last year. I wore them last year, never took them out this year, didn't have a need for them, but always will take them in case it's wet or walking through high grass or something like that. I've got a GoPro mount that goes on my head, and then this is the Monfrotto Backpacker Air tripod. I think I did a review on it last year. Again, I'll post a link in the description there. Really like this thing for the RX100 or for a smaller type camera. I wouldn't use it for a big camera, but works really well for the type of camera gear that I take on a hunt like this. So that's in there, and that's pretty much it. All right, so I'm going to transition real quickly to, I forget the name of this pack. I bought it last year to run kind of as a lid or a final approach pack, and I figured I could use it for whitetail hunting as well. I use it a little bit. I did take it with me. I had intent to take it with me anyway, but the reason that I have it right now on here is that I didn't run it the entire time, but the reason I have it on here now is just to show you kind of the adaptation I made for the water bladder, and it just clips onto the top and bottom. We'll unclip that real quick. And then I can run my water bladder inside of here. It's got the tube that of course the hose comes out of, that's clipped onto the pack strap. So we'll unload that. We've got the platypus water bladder and a Sawyer inline mini water filter. And so if I did need to run the water, which I probably should have more than what I did, then carrying it inside this pouch, which I had it with me anyway, like I say, so it didn't add any additional bulk or weight, but I would like the option to run a bladder without the additional bulk and weight of that separate pack. But that's the best way that I found to run that. All right, so looking at the side of the pack, again, with the Cavern, you have the great thing is you have compression straps across the side. So there's 3 across one side. You got 3 compression straps across the we'll call it the front or the back of the pack, depending on how you look at it. But across this, we'll call it the front. And then on the other side, there's a zippered access so that you can quickly access things. So 3 additional compression straps that run across that. So without having to uncompress the entire pouch, you can access gear that you might need really quickly, kind of from the side. So typically along this side I might have my midweight hoodie, again first light midweight hoodie, so that would stay in here that I can quickly access. I've got a this is my puffy jacket. Now I have a First Light Cirrus puffy jacket. I went with an Outdoor Vitals. It's a solid color gray, but it's Outdoor Vitals Loftek hooded jacket. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a future video. Also a rain jacket. I didn't use a rain jacket this time. We did get some rain, but not while we were hiking or hunting or anything like that. So, but I always want to make sure I have a rain jacket. This is just a cheap Columbia rain jacket that I picked up at on clearance at one of their outlet stores. Carried it last year. It's lightweight enough. I did take this is a Sea to Summit 13-liter dry sack. It's a light version of their dry sack, so I went ahead and had it in case in case I needed to keep something dry, camera gear or clothes or whatever else. So just kept that. So all of that kind of stuff I kept kind of close to this to the side pouch so that I could access it quickly without going through the top of the bag. The rest of the stuff we'll kind of unload kind of from the top, and I'll just kind of show you a little bit about how I might have everything loaded. First thing I'll pull out, I've got my Possibles pouch. This stayed with the pack whether I was hiking in or while I was hunting, and this is just stuff that, you know, Possibles pouch, just stuff you might need as you go through it. Again, a lot of it's the same stuff that I had when I mentioned it on the kayaking video, but it's got some cordage in here. I've got another Sawyer filter, and then the dirty bag for it. I got some, let's see, I got a lighter, a couple of different fire making options. This is a lighter, again some Gorilla Tape wrapped around it. I've got I've got a ferro rod, and then I've got cotton balls soaked in Vaseline. See, just again, I don't want to go through everything in here, but just kind of the stuff. There's some cable ties, you know, just things that you might need. Nitrile gloves, things that you might need on a hunt. That, you know, extra batteries for flashlights, that kind of thing. So that all stays in the Possibles pouch. This is my we'll call it a clothes bag. So this is the stuff that I'll have, or camp bag. This is stuff I want to have with me. Once I get camp set up, usually what I did is I would roll out, I've got a piece of Tyvek actually in here. So I'd roll out that Tyvek underneath the hammock, and then I could set out my gear on it that I needed. This always pretty much stayed with camp. These are, so I have shorts that I might wear when I get back to camp, and then a shirt. And actually I wore this shirt, just a little short sleeve, lightweight shirt. And I actually wore this shirt, these shorts on my hike in and then the hike out. But ordinarily it just stayed right here in at camp, so I could switch into it in the evening, let my other gear either dry out or air out. Again, I mentioned sock liners, an extra pair of darn tough socks, so that's in here. Extra pair of underwear. I took a camp towel just in case we took a bath in a creek. We didn't, but I had it there. I've got some sunscreen, a little small deal of deodorant, again some extra batteries. I've got wisps, which rather than taking a toothbrush and toothpaste, I just took enough wisps for every day. I've got of course toilet paper, got an extra cordage. I did take some scent-free shampoo and an Nalgene bottle, and then I've got of course charging type stuff. So I've got charging cables for iPhone, charging cables for camera equipment, all of that. So that typically stayed back at camp so I could charge it up overnight. So that's the we'll call it a camp bag. That's a Kifaru extra large bag, I believe. All right, so let's talk real quickly. The heaviest gear that I took that typically goes on a trip is food items. And so this is an Ursack bear bag. A lot of places require a bear-proof bag, and you're supposed to hang it a couple hundred yards away from camp and everything to keep bears out. We did that. We were better at that last year than we were this year, but we did kind of hang it away from camp. I kept each day's food in a gallon Ziploc freezer bag, and then what I would do is I would pull out the evening's meal. So this is just one of my home dehydrated meals. Again, I did a video last year about this. I'll probably do another one going into a little bit more detail. But so I have each night's dinner that I would keep back at camp, so it would stay actually in the Ursack bag. And then I would eat breakfast, of course, in the morning. Typically, almost every morning I had just a steel cut instant oats. And then the rest of the stuff, so lunch and snacks and that kind of thing, would go back in the pack, and then I would have it with me during the day while we were hunting. So there's that. Cook setup stays in this little, sorry about that. Cook setup stays just a little cheap dry bag, mainly to hold it together more than anything else. And so this is Jetboil. This is a Jetboil Micro Mo. I really like this. This is probably my favorite and definitely most used piece of equipment that I have. Cooked on it probably twice a day, every day, for breakfast and coffee, and then for dinner in the evening to heat up and boil water. It'll boil 2 cups of water in about 3 minutes. I'm going to do another video talking about how much fuel consumption that it uses. This thing is very efficient. So I've got the fuel canister for that in here, and then in addition to that, I've got the I took actually 2 different sporks. One of the changes I made for this year was a long-handled spork, and then I've got another spork just in case this one gets misplaced. It stays in there, and then this is just a homemade pot cozy so that I can, as I'm dehydrating my food, it stays hot and rehydrates it quicker. So that stays in there. Then we pretty much get to sleep system. Again, I went with the Tarp. This is just the DD Hammocks 10x10 nylon tarp. I was going to upgrade this year to either Kifaru or some other sil nylon type tarp, and just decided this has worked really well for me. I'm going to keep this. This is again another versatile piece of equipment. I can use it for hammock. I actually did hammock hang probably 5 nights, and then I did sleeping in a kind of a standalone floorless tent shelter configuration for 1 night. And then I've got, when I do that, I need stakes, so I've got 7 stakes that are in there. I've got cordage that's tied to each of the 4 corners. So there's that. And then of course the bare butt hammock. Used the bare butt hammock on most of the deals, along with Outdoor Vitals, Steel suspension. Now, I did keep a smaller hammock in my pickup, and one of the days when we came back and went back out, I decided to switch hammocks, and I forgot my suspension straps. So be real careful of that if you're making a switch. Now, fortunately, I did have plenty of paracord, and so I was able to make suspension out of paracord. But that's not ideal for either me or for the trees. I know a lot of people are probably going to get upset with me for using paracord around a tree, but hey, I needed to use what worked. So anyway, so bare butt double hammock, and then I've got Topquilt. This is Outdoor Vitals Topquilt. This is the Stormloft. Last year I used their Loftek version, and I had some issues with it. I think I may have gotten one of the first offerings that they had on that, and it didn't loft quite as well as what I had hoped for. So I contacted Tayson, asked him if anybody else had any problems. He suggested that he just send me a Stormloft, which is the down version of the quilt. So obviously I took him up on that. He sent that to me, so it was great. Now, I didn't completely lose faith in the Loftek. In fact, I've already mentioned the Loftek puffy jacket that I took with me, and I purchased that, and I also purchased this Loftek underquilt. Last year, you may remember, I took just an old, cheap, relatively cheap Chinese knockoff quilt, and I used that as an underquilt. Had to do some Aggie engineering to do that. So one of the main things that I wanted to buy this year was a true underquilt. So I went with the Loftek version of that. Worked really great. I didn't get cold any on the trip. So the Outdoor Vitals, both top quilt and bottom quilt. I've got the Sea to Summit Eros pillow. This is the premium regular version of it. Just a little blow-up pillow. I like to have that on there. Down in the bottom that kind of just stays in here is my kill kit. I've got a Havalon knife in here, some extra blades. I've got the tag bags. I've got some Kifaru meat bags, and then a contractor bag, and that's pretty much it. Unfortunately, it has remained pretty much untouched, unused for the last couple of years. Nitrile gloves in here as well. I did use it for whitetail last year, and typically carry it with me when I go, but one of these days this is going to get properly used, but not this year. And I think that's it, other than, well, here's my this is paracord Ridgeline. I've got it kind of pre-set up with a couple of different bungees in a Prusik, I'm going to call it a Prusik knot, so I can run that real quickly. Got it just a quick attach, quick detach, and then quickly attach my the tarp on it, run it real quick. And so I've got my tarp set up, and even in the rain, in the weather, then I can go ahead and set up the hammock suspension and the hammock itself without getting wet. So, all right, so that's probably still longer than what I wanted to, but that's just a quick rundown of the stuff that I took with me on my pack. I've got a lot of other videos that I'm going to work on. Even though we weren't successful, I'm going to use some of the footage and have a couple of different things that I want to work on from this hunt, and talking about gearing up for hunts next year. So be sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. If I'm missing anything, if I omitted anything, if there's things that you would carry that I didn't, or if I can carry in too much. My back and my cardio would probably tell me I was carrying a little bit too much, but that's probably more a function of not working out enough as opposed to carrying too much gear. So anyway, leave a comment down in the comment section below. Appreciate you joining me on this video. I'll try to get videos cranked out a little bit more consistently. Again, thank you for joining us. I look forward to seeing you on the next one.